The Magic Show is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, and check this out. Shards of Ellora is coming, and this powerful multicolor set harkens back to the days of Ravnica in a whole new way. So get ready for States in November and pre-order Shards of Ellora from StarCityGames.com today.
Hey, this is Patrick Chapin.
Gabriel Lassif.
And Phil Cave.
And
welcome to the Magic Show.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of The Magic Show. After suffering through this past weekend's pre-release festivities, something must be said, and if I'm the guy who has to say it, so be it. I'll also cover the leak of the complete Conflux card list and feature a special visit from Patrick Chapin and Friends. Let's go! Quite simply, this weekend was a colossal and epic failure. From every metric I can find, from every store I can contact, the turnout for the Shards of Ellora pre-release was abysmal. It was so bad at my premiere event location that it actually made me less interested in Magic. There was no large gathering of gamers who loved the same game as I did. There was no sense of community. There was no constant murmur of voices as pairings are called for one flight while seatings are up for another. The Shards of Ellora pre-release really opened my eyes to just how important large pre-release events were. They are essential to keeping a regional community excited about the game. After this past weekend and the humdrum and grumpiness of what few players showed up, I'm now less excited about Shards of Ellora as a set. As a result, players who go to their first pre-release to see unexcited players waiting hours to play a single game may not be inclined to come back for more tournament experiences, even if those events would be vastly superior. There is no footage of Magic players like you and I enjoying the set because with a turnout less than an F&M, I wouldn't be able to provide you with a varied set of opinions that ran the gamut. Why? Because everyone I spoke to was unhappy. There were no drafts. There was no turnout. Gamers had been tossed far and wide. Confusion abounded. The wait was ridiculous. I waited 4 hours for my flight to start. 4 frickin' hours. And that kind of wait doesn't actually make you excited about the set. It just makes you frustrated that you can't play with it. By splintering the entire player base, you demolish turnout. The turnout was even worse than Cold Snap, for God's sake, and that set was absolutely awful. Shards of Ellora is not a bad set, not in the least. But you know what's a ton more fun than playing a multicolor set in sealed? Drafting it. That's where gold sets really shine, and you completely cut us off from that. And I'll be honest, I wasn't completely blown away with how the set fared in sealed. I thought those with mana fixing have a huge advantage over those who don't, and every game I won in my sealed flight had to do in some part by the 2 tricolor comes into play tap lands that I opened. Those who opened less or opened sack lands not in their shard were struggling at times to keep it together. After hours, as me and some buddies pulled together our meager winnings, we played a few drafts. Drafting the set, even in a few 4-mans, was a much better experience than sealed. I can imagine the set is going to be an absolute blast to draft with a full roster. And you know what? It's okay that Shards of Ellora has a better draft environment than sealed environment. I just wish I could have drafted the set sanctioned with 7 other people like I have been able to do ever since I returned to Magic. Even with the low turnout, that positive experience would have left a much better impression than the one I got. Speaking of shards and their colors, I'm personally not going to bother with a release sealed event if it makes me choose just one shard to play with. This is needlessly restrictive and I think takes part of the fun out of Magic. Why can't you play with whatever colors you want to? Since when was playing with less colors more fun? Has there ever in the history of the game been a sealed format in which the rules state you can't play certain colors? Good job, Wizards. Nothing like giving us a format that is not only confusing, since you can still have a few cards with off-shard activation costs and things, but could be very unfun as you are forced to leave some of your best cards on your sideboard because they're one color too many of the shard you're forced to use. I think I'd rather just draft. Thanks. But let's take a look at the prize support, shall we? 1 box of product for 24 players is a pack and a half per player. This is half of what was previously provided for American players. Now, the funny thing about prize support is that different places had different support. 2 packs per player in Japan, a whopping 6 packs per player in France, and so on. This pack and a half decision was an effort to standardize support across all regions. But when you cut prizes in half, you give players even higher incentive to not show up. Speaking of price support, how about this whopper? How about judges no longer getting pre-release product? Oh, that's right. Ever since the inception of a pre-release, judges for the event would get to take home product for said pre-release. You judged the Lorman pre-release, you got Lorman product for your services. This is no more. They get cash, existing sets, or they can get their pre-release product when it's, well, released. So the cool bonus for spending your day judging instead of playing is basically negated. Not that getting paid or existing product is awful, but come on now, get real here. The only reason I judge a pre-release is if I could take home a box or so of product when I was finished with my day. I know a lot of judges who were surprised by this move, had no prior warning, and were highly upset at the Shards pre-release as a result. This does absolutely awful things for the judge program. Then, of course, there's the Wild West feel of having local shops dealing with pre-releases. I don't know about you, but I heard plenty of stories about drafts being held in local stores. And while claiming ignorance is easy for the shop owners, the fact is that the bigger and larger the operation, the less likely someone breaking the rules will occur. Right now, there is just no incentive not to break the rules for local shops. To shop owners, it can appear to be free money, just waiting to be taken from players. Let's hope that Wizards cracks down on the shops who are running drafts over the weekend to ensure these new policies, however misguided, are still respected. There were also reports of widespread product leakage. For the past week or so, many eBay sellers not only had Shards of Ellora product, they were willing to ship them immediately. Sure, WotC tries their best to pull these auctions, but the fact remains that cases of product were on the street before it was legal to do so. One player at my own pre-release had a full box of product as he walked through the door that morning. I really didn't understand how fundamental drafts are to the ambiance of a pre-release. There's just something really cool about being able to wander around and check out not only the cards being drafted, but how cards are being evaluated by various players. How friends would run over and show you their latest drafts and what their thoughts were on it. And now that's gone. The last minor point I'll make is that Wizards have saved a little on the budget end by not providing unique pre-release foils any longer. The same foil you got last weekend is the same one you'll get this weekend. This provides even more incentive to not attend a pre-release. The changes to the pre-release system are a huge misstep for the game. There is no other way to put it. I don't care if Wizards listens to me or not, and we need to not only recognize it, we need to fix it. While I would simply reboot the pre-release system to the way it had been ran successfully for years, instead of trying to prop up this rotting corpse of a new policy, perhaps enough of an outcry can make this an option. But I cannot stress the importance of this enough. Large pre-releases are the key to building local communities. You must give people a regional focal point to bring them together for pre-release celebrations. This was the biggest mistake made last weekend, and it's why Wizards failed so badly. Conflux now has the lowest expectations of any pre-release in the history of Magic, and Scissors is now looking grim. Traditionally, the third set of the block is the worst attended pre-release. At this rate, it could be rather lonely at the Scissors pre-release. So here are some tips on fixing this broken system. First, for God's sake, give judges pre-release product. You should be ashamed of yourselves for even mentioning not doing so. Secondly, limit the number of pre-release locations. This is the key. This is the reason they were previously successful. Pay attention, Wizards. When there are less events, then those events are more special. They are now unique and not found at every card shop in town. When there is nothing special about them, then players don't make special plans for them. Thirdly, you need to develop pre-release and release foils again. This is probably minor, but it's another strike against pre-release events that they don't need. Lastly, please consider upping the prize support. I'm just a Magic player, I just like slinging cardboard, and giving me more cardboard, or even the same amounts as I've been used to for the past few years, encourages me to attend events. Giving me half of what I'm used to isn't encouraging in the slightest. This is the least likely change as it affects the pocketbooks the most, but hopefully they'll at least consider it. All I know is something's got to change. Large tournament organizers all over the country lost a boatload of money, and many players decided to stay at home or do something else. Maybe the points I detailed had something to do with those. I bet they do. When you change a dozen things about an event, it's hard to pinpoint just what went wrong. Let this be a lesson to Wizards of the Coast. And with all great lessons, hopefully something will be done so this travesty doesn't occur with Conflux. Because I'll tell you right now, if Conflux is the exact same setup, I'm staying home. Good grief. So that's my opinion based on what I saw and experienced firsthand. How do you feel? Good or bad, I want to know. Leave a comment, reply in the forums, or better yet, why not tell Wizards of the Coast directly by dialing this number, 1-800-324-6496, or go to wizards.custhelp.com for Wizards of the Coast customer service. Let them hear your story. Good or bad, let your voice be heard. My show gets thousands upon thousands of views a week. I know you're out there, and I want you to make a difference. So get to dialing or typing, and let's make some noise here. And now, a special word from Patrick Chapin.
Am I creeping you out right now? I'm not staring at you in the eyes. If you think I'm looking at you in the eyes, I assure you I'm looking at your chest. Local magic... Don't talk on your phone during an interview. Alright, I'm here with local legend, Phil Cape, who went to the pre-release this weekend. Now, my perspective on the pre-release is pretty well known, so instead I will defer to Mr. Phil Cape here. What was your experience?
My experience, honestly, it was probably the worst pre-release I've ever been to in my life. It was always a big event, lots of people. You just meet, not really about meeting people because you see a lot of the same ones after enough time has gone on. I didn't get to experience that, but more distressing was the fact that we couldn't play the formats we wanted to play. Even though the prizes kind of sucked, people still wanted to draft, to get their hands on some of the new product, try it out, see how it played. They wouldn't let us draft. They said Wizards of the Coast won't let us. We were to the point where we kind of organized everybody into a situation where we were going to just cut the tournament organizer out. Everybody pays, drops, and takes the prize support, and you have like an extra starter deck left over at the end of the draft, but you're paying $30. And everyone was going to pay $30 for a draft because that's how much we wanted to draft. The whole thing got very, very touchy, and to the point where he was ready to not run anything when we came up with the idea of running Two-Headed Giant instead.
About how many players would you say were acquired Friday night?
Negative 13. That's the actual number. Negative 13. 13 people were here and left.
What do you mean?
They showed up for the pre-release, all excited, ready to go, wanted to see some new cards, found out the prize structure, found out the cost, found out they couldn't draft, left one by one. We got down to 15 players before we stopped the madness and figured out what we could make work.
I personally think this is way better than the old system. I mean, to begin with, the old system involved 300 or 400 people, and I don't like people. So the fact that this one only has 16, it's sort of cutting your losses, It's the lesser of two evils. And the second of all, drafting, I mean, I prefer constructed.
Right.
And if we can't play constructed, then nobody should get to do anything. They shouldn't get to do anything, right?
That makes sense.
Third of all, I didn't actually play in the pre-release because it looked really miserable. So it saved me the trouble of being really tired the next day because I didn't stay up all night playing cards. And the final benefit is that typically in the past at pre-releases I've actually played Magic cards, and this one didn't drive me down that road, This one gave me the option to instead hang out, witness a train wreck, and go home and sleep, Instead of driving, 2 hours to a pre-release with a bunch of people doing things, now you can drive 15 minutes to do nothing. Like, why drive 2 hours to do something when you could drive 15 minutes to do nothing? What you guys don't realize... Gabriel, come here a second. Our pre-release is normally pretty high profile. Gabe, how far did you travel to play in our pre-release?
A few thousand miles.
Yeah, and why? I mean, why a pre-release?
Because I heard Michigan was awesome, had the best priorities.
So you flew from where? From Ohio?
Paris?
Paris! Okay.
Is that Paris, Ohio?
No.
And
Paris,
would you say that Paris, France?
Yeah.
Was it worth the flight?
Meh.
You had an okay time? Could it have been better?
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
What'd you play?
My priorities wasn't that bad, actually. Sorry.
You went to the one on Saturday?
Yeah, I showed up, played like 4 rounds of Seal Deck, and
How many people were there?
not many. And yeah, the prizes kind of sucked, though. It was like, I don't know, I went 3-1, and I got 2 bags.
Yeah, 2 packs?
Yeah.
I hope you didn't spend them all in one place.
No, saving them preciously. Like,
Like, maybe, like, when the next set comes out,
Yeah,
you'll have enough to draft.
Yeah, I get another 2 packs and then I can have a draft set. Kind of doing it.
So this past Sunday, something very interesting popped up on the rumor mill. Someone claimed to have found the entire card listing for Conflux. That's right, the entire card list, all 149 cards coming next February. The problem with this is, of course, that it's supposed to debut next February. Matter of fact, based on the date listed on this file, it had been up for a whole week. A random Google search had picked up a file located on a Japanese Magic translation site that included all of the Ellora card names and their Japanese translations, along with Conflux as well. Now, if you're not exactly sure how bad this is, let me assure you, it's bad. This is a leak of epic proportions. To put it in context, the rumor mill didn't have the final Ellora card names a week before the pre-release. Here is a list of all the Conflux card names, 5 months in advance? For the naysayers, let's cover the facts. The file has a Google cache date of September 22nd, 2008. This is a week before it was discovered. On September 22nd, the rumor mill didn't even have all the finalized card names, while this file did with pinpoint accuracy, including their correct translations. The file has exactly 149 Conflux cards listed. This is the final number for the set. The card names themselves sound correct. Now, that's tough to discern, but we've been watching people fake us out for years now. None of the names have been used before except for the reprints, and the other names fit the Ellora world perfectly. The file was also taken down 2 hours after the rumor mill reported its findings. Now, you're not going to get Wizards of the Coast denying or confirming this in any fashion. They can't because they like their jobs. We'll know for certain early next year, but not since Judgment has a set been busted so early. To turn the clock back a moment, Judgment was meant to have both an online and offline simultaneous launch. Now, for those in software development, you know the only way you can do that is to go through beta testing. So out went the non-disclosure agreements to beta testers, and lo and behold, the set was busted a full 6 weeks early. By the time Judgment was on store shelves, the interwebs had not only known about it, an entire metagame was already in place based on the new cards. This, as you can imagine, is about as bad as it gets for Magic. With no sense of discovery and little excitement, sales of Judgment suffered as a result. Conflux luckily won't have this fate, but what it will have is less of a surprise in regards to one big name, Nicol Bolas. Because, you see, in addition to the reprints we have coming in Conflux, which appear to be Mana Silex, Unsummon, Maniacal Rage, and Worldly Council, there was one card name that makes every Magic player stop in awe. Right there, in the ends, is Nicol Bolas, Planeswalker. Holy crap! Hot diggity. Now this is news, ladies and gentlemen. Nicol Bolas, one of the most beloved Elder Dragons of all time, is headed back to cardboard in a new Planeswalker form. For those who argue about the name, you could imagine that Nicol Bolas would simply have his name in the title, much like the other Planeswalkers, but he can't do that since he was already an existing card from Legends. This explains the comma in the title. Also notice that he is in Grixis colors. Could this be our first ever tricolored Planeswalker? I'm willing to bet yes. So, of course, the rumor mill has gone absolutely bonkers with this thing, with everyone speculating on what the 5 landish card names may be, whether Conflux is the enemy tricolor set or some other variation of worlds colliding, whatever that may be. All I know is it was one bad weekend for WotC. Here's hoping they can keep a lid on the rest of Conflux until official previews begin in January. And that's the latest from the world of the magical cards, folks. I would like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you here next week. Until next time, Magic players, this is Evan Irwin, tapping the cards so you don't have to.
I always like the fatties.
I was thinking to see
the Mark Rosewater story.
Got it. Okay.
And we have to all say welcome to the magic show at the same time.
Let's all get on with it.
And welcome to the magic show. We gotta try that again. And welcome to the magic show. Okay, we gotta try that again.
Okay.
And welcome to the magic show.
No.
Try to cover your eyes too. Just be like, hi, this is Patrick Chapin.
Gabriel Asif.
And Phil K.
And welcome to the magic show.
Did I
It's like the Virgin Mary. Right in front of me.
Okay.
And welcome to Guantanamo Bay.
This time, do it like you mean it. Oh my god.
Try it.
No, seriously, you guys. You gotta say it like you mean it. Be like, welcome to the magic show. Give it a little flair.
Let's just all do jazz hands.
Okay.
Jazz
Focus.
Get in the zone. Okay, get in the zone.
Jazz hands when you say magic show.
Oh my god.